All right, today's video is sponsored by hot coffee and gold jewelry. Take 20. Hello, hello. I'm Hannah. This is Sweet Fern Homestead, where we talk about sacred home, sacred roots, and sacred rhythm. And today we have a really special sacred home project that I want to share with you on the eve of the solstice. So winter solstice is tomorrow. And we've had a tradition in our house where we keep all the lights off and we only use candles and I guess this is lights, but the Christmas tree lights, whatever lights we've hung up for Christmas decorations, those get to stay on. But we don't turn on any other lights, no lamps, no overhead lights. And each year, for the last few years now, I have taken our old farm table from the 1800s and transformed it into some sort of winter solstice scene. Now I have traditionally used those little, I don't even know what they're called. They're those cute little trees. They're like little metal trees. I don't have any vintage ones. I would love to collect vintage ones, but I only have new ones. And I made a really good collection of those. I think this year I'm gonna bring those out for Christmas. I also in the past had gone to like Trader Joe's and bought flowers and greenery and things like that. But since we've started to homestead, really, we didn't change where we lived, we changed our mindset, we changed our practices. And one of those practices is we don't buy a Christmas tree, we go out into our woods and we cut the top off of one tree each year. And it's a very tiny white pine, very sparse, there's nothing fancy about it, but it's become our tradition. So instead of going anywhere and buying anything, I wanted to just make sure that the table was completely using what we already had. That is part of our sustainability practice. That's part of being a responsible consumer. And so it just really fit into our vibe homesteading, even in suburbia. So the first thing that I do is just clear the table. I had already kind of half cleared it with the salt and pepper and napkins. And so I just finished clearing the table. And then after that, this is a very old table and it needs to be refinished, which we haven't done yet. So I just took a glob of coconut oil and I just gave it a rub down with the coconut oil. And that just helps to kind of, it's antibacterial, so I really like that, knowing that I've done that to the wood. But it also just gives it a little bit of moisture. It's very dry. It really needs some love. And that's not on our project list right now. It will be, just not right now. So after the coconut oil, then usually I leave the table just wood. I rarely put a tablecloth on this particular table. I just felt like it this year. I had this Kantha quilt sitting around. I loved the colors. I'm kind of going for an earthy solstice vibe. Sometimes I do like bright pinks. This year I really wanted earthy. So I went ahead and just laid that tablecloth down or the Kantha quilt down. And the reason that it worked for me is you can still see the wood on either end. And that was really important to me. I like to be able to see this table. It is a very unique table, all like hand, like wooden nails and everything. Like it's so cool. So anyway, I did that. So then sheepskin. Every year for solstice, make sure that every single chair has a sheepskin on it. I just happen to have 8 sheepskin exactly in this house for the 8 chairs. Now there will only be 5 of us, 6? There will only be 6 of us on solstice, I think, this year, but it's just really nice to have every single chair have the sheepskin. So I go around the house and I take them off of beds, I take them off of other chairs, I take them from the kitchen chairs, and from the couches. I think we have 2 left in the house, so I must have 10 total, and Chloe might have one. So that's kind of exciting to me. I've been collecting these sheepskin for years. Mostly because I was doing retreats, and when I did retreats I would do these long wooden tables and I would make sure that there was sheepskin on all the benches or chairs around them. Just a really special touch. Sheepskin are great to have for to warm your feet in the winter. If you have a leather couch, throw them down on the couches so that you don't have to sit on a cold leather couch in the winter. They're just fabulous to have, and you can source them in a in a number of ways, and I'm sure you can find them secondhand as well if you do a little searching and a little digging. So anyway, these I've had for years. I haven't bought one. I can't remember the last time I bought one. I've had these for honestly years, and the older they get and the more worn and used, the more I just love them. And then the next step was just deciding what candle holders I was going to use, because we need a lot of light because we're not turning on the lights. So I went ahead and chose the brass, some wood, it's mostly brass and wood. There's one little green glass holder in there. Now I also have a lot of like crystal, like votive holders or candlesticks. I decided that I'm going to use those for Christmas. So I might bring down those little metal trees and then do a mixture of the crystal candle holders. So we'll see how it works. But I just really wanted a very earthy, low-key vibe for Solstice. So simple. So all the candle holders on the table, I kind of fussed with them a little bit, but once the greenery comes in, then it changes. So quick tea break. I'm feeling really good about this. I love the way it's starting to look. So I'm gonna finish my tea before it gets cold, run outside, get the greenery, and then finish this off for Solstice. So a mixture of white pine from our Christmas tree, some cedar, I believe it is, and some lavender, just a little bit of lavender from the garden. I like the way the lavender is in the garden in the winter with the snow on it. I think it's just beautiful. I don't cut it back. You can cut it back in the spring, but I don't cut it back in the winter. And then just coming in and just placing all that greenery on the table, and then just fussing with the candlesticks a little bit more so that everything kind of, the height differences played nicely. So you have some tall mixed with short, mixed with really short, and then just making sure everything had a candle. I did end up putting back 2 wood ones. I don't have candles small enough for those. Those were a recent thrift store find. And so I just said, I don't have the candles for those. Those will have to wait till another time. Those may end up going in my shop too. So that is the solstice table. And for us, it's just this recognition of the dark days now starting to become lighter, brighter, knowing that every day we'll be moving towards light rather than away from it. And the way we honor that or celebrate that is just by the absence of light in our house and home, lighting the candles, honoring the darkness of winter, and celebrating the return of light. There were many years that I skipped over solstice, kind of when things were just chaotic for our family. There were times that I looked at the calendar and I went, oh my gosh, it's December 23rd. I forgot solstice. You always get another try, right? So those years, I just had to relax. I've done parties for solstice, had people over. We've made crafts on solstice. One year we made these cute little things for solstice. You can find something like this like in Anthropology for like $50, but you can make it yourself for very little money. We almost always have a pot of soup. So it's just deciding what kind of soup. I'm thinking chicken and dumplings. We did that one year and it was just delicious, and I think all the kids will eat that. It's always tough figuring out what will all my kids eat. I could do 2 soups too. Could do 2 soups. We'll see. Chicken and dumplings sounds yummy. So we'll have tea and hot chocolate. Keep the lights off until somebody gets annoyed and turns the lights on. But now that I have teenagers who spend so much time in their room, I can't imagine that happening. They just don't care. So maybe until the candles burn out and we move upstairs to bed. I think for me, winter solstice is the most special day of the year in terms of honoring, celebrating, decorating my home, having some special ritual that we can incorporate. It's just this huge touch point for me where there are these like magical and chaotic and sort of liminal days that I find we move through at this time of year, end of December into the beginning of January. And this for me is a way to mark time. It's a way to remind my family that we are connected. We are connected to this earth, to the sun, to the moon, to the dirt, that we are not separate. And that's what I most want them to feel. Happy Solstice Eve. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you. Bye. I think this necklace might be blinding you all. I think I might have to take this off. I don't know.